Good morning everyone, it's Christine here and it is a rainy, cold, wintry morning here in Melbourne. So with the rain pouring down outside, I can't take Travis out for a walk. So I'm joining you in my very nice cozy pyjamas from my craft room. And I thought I would share an update on the approach I'm taking to putting together my Roxy Journal of Stitchery Down the Garden Path pieces. So some people for this project have created a continuous snippet roll. So their roll's already, I guess, ready. They'll just be adding their final sort of 2 to 3 prompts to it. So we've got 1 prompt at the moment, then 2 more to come after this. But I've made individual pieces to which towards the end I've then added some additional elements where they fitted with them. But I've got a number of individual, in a sense, panels. And so my choice was either to stitch those panels together in a continuous snippet roll, but I've decided to take a bit of a different approach, which I thought might give some ideas to others if you do have individual panels and want to make them into something even more beautiful and possibly a bit more sort of, freestanding and not a snippet roll style where you'd actually leave it rolled up. I really want to have my pieces on display. So I'm planning to make 2 wall hangings with all my pieces, and I've arranged them so they kind of thematically and colour scheme wise go together. And I'm going to have these wall hangings on each side of my cupboard doors in my craft room studio. So you might remember that I created a moonlit wildflower garden. So that's where I'm going to be starting. But first of all, actually, let me give you my little plan for the 2 panels. I'm going to have them with a stitched heading on them, or a stitched label of Down the Garden Path of my mind's eye. And I like the imagery of the mind's eye because it's all about your imagination and your recollected scenes. So I think it's a really lovely way to bring together all the different sort of elements I have in my stitchery pieces. Some of them are more realistic, like the chateau garden, but again, it's a recollected scene from my travels, having been to that actual chateau de Villandry. And then there's other ones like the Peter Rabbit, which are more, I guess, childhood imagery. So I really like the mind's eye reference, and I want to bring almost like a dreamlike quality to my piece. And to actually have the pieces that I've stitched melding in with beautiful fabrics. So I'll share with you where I'm up to. I've only worked on one of the panels so far, but I know how the other pieces will lay out. I just have to then go through and select the companion pieces. So I'm standing up while I do this. So let's, and before I go on, I've left a length of fabric at the top, which will be what attaches over the piece of doweling that I'm going to put across to make the panel. So you've got my pyjama clad arms in it. So let's just get in frame. So I might need to put my chair here to expand it down onto as I unroll. Let's see how we go. There we go. So this will be where the heading will go, Down the Garden Path, and then of my mind's eye on the other side, or vice versa. I'll work out which order they sit on the cupboard. I've got some pins in here. That's where you see those little plasticky things. These are quilters pins, and they've got cute little buttons as the pin head. So, one of the pieces, the first piece I did for the Roxy Journal of Stitchery was the moonlit wildflower garden. And so I've decided to start with that up the top of this piece, being sort of a nighttime scene. And so I've been able to select some other beautiful fabrics with black and white and black and colours to actually create a collage around my piece. So you can see my piece starting here. Everything's just pinned down and using these great little clips. Tried to use those everywhere, but I had to still add some pins to keep the pieces of fabric stitched down. And so my label for the piece, or my heading for the piece, sign for the piece, signpost, will go up in this area somewhere. It will hang then from a piece of doweling across the top. And I've been able to add this gorgeous piece, which was part of my wildflower garden, but I didn't have the beautiful bunny, and I think what fun to have her, the bunny, up here with a little light on and the sort of the heading, because it's almost, again, just bringing in that really whimsical and dream-like sense. And then a lot of these fabrics up here are actually, they're not a cotton, they're a synthetic, and they're a bit lighter weight. So I couldn't, and they do tend to fray a little bit around the edges. So they were harder to use in my stitchery, but I just love them. They are just such gorgeous designs, even up here as well, that I wanted to, yeah, kind of preserve them and enjoy them. And so adding them as pieces behind this, where I'll be able to stabilize them down with stitches, was the perfect opportunity to bring them in. So let's take it up another fold. It's all just pins, so I'll just have to move it carefully. So now you can see where it's coming down into the moonlit wildflower garden. And then I'm planning to add various sort of embellishments. Like I've got this little, well, it's not a ribbon, but it looks like a ribbon. It was just a strip of a gorgeous fabric with little birds on it. And so bringing those into the piece, I've got some lovely shimmery, silvery, goldy lace that has been floating around my craft desk. I think at one stage I was thinking of putting it in this bit of the wildflower garden, but I thought it would help with transitioning between the darker backed fabrics into the different, as we move into the lighter part of the garden. So yeah, and again, I've just gone, yeah, from the black and now down into the lighter colours. And I just love how, yeah, basically the piece is now merging into the background, but I've been able to use these larger format blooms and have them brought into the piece. So just, yeah, super pleased. And then just thinking about where there's transition. So these birds are almost kind of signifying where there's a trend. I might even move them down so they're a bit more sort of, actually, no, I think I'm happy with that. That one's probably just needs to move down so it looks like it's continuous across. I haven't actually, with the fabrics, continued them all the way over because that would be wasting them if they're just going to be underneath. So I've just used sections of them at either side. But to make some of them look like they're continuous across, but then other ones are separate bits of fabric that run more vertical. So I like with my slow stitch pieces where I'm surrounding things by fabric to have some that run across horizontally and then to have some vertical elements, and I'll also be adding vertical elements with my embellishments. So I'll do the next fold. So then that takes us into the bottom of that piece. And so again, we're going brighter because now we're into the sunlit cat garden with all the beautiful stitchery. You can see, and I'll probably do a separate video where we finish off the cats, and I'll show you where my ribbon embroidery got up to, but you can see I've added quite a bit more ribbon embroidery and stitchery down there. Having an absolute ball with ribbon embroidery now, well and truly a convert. This is another bit of beautiful fabric from the reverse art truck, but again a synthetic fabric, but a gorgeous panel. But it had a black element down here that I didn't want right next to it, so I'm going to put this little bit of, again, it's just a torn bit of fabric that looks like a fabric ribbon. And then this beautiful tree scene. So what I've done when I'm transitioning between pieces, let me just roll this up a smidge more so we can see that. So now you can see I'm transitioning from my sunlit cat garden down into the Peter Rabbit scene. And so what I've done is taken colours, so yellows and sort of orangey and pinks, which is what's in here, and reflected in those fabrics, and then transition to what's then picked up in the next set of fabrics. So this piece of fabric has yellows and pinks, but also the greens, and so then the pinks become more muted and then carry down into the next bits of fabric. So I wasn't sure I'd have enough fabrics to be able to do what I wanted, but it was amazing. Like just opening up a box, I'd go, oh, there's that bit of fabric. I'll be able to use that there and there. And it just came together, and it does convince me that I've got more than enough selection of fabrics to kind of do the types of projects that I want to do. And I just love in this piece, I'm really being able to display and capture and hoard some of my gorgeous fabrics, but actually hoarding them in a way that they are being used. So just love this, yeah, this intricate fabric there. And I've got my beautiful little Peter Rabbit piece with the little hedge that sits out from the piece. And then being able to bring in these more muted greens in here, still keeping the pink elements because this also has the pink and the pink here. And then this is a lovely, nice textural piece of cheesecloth. Let's roll up a bit further. And then we're coming down, actually I'll just put down a smidge, coming down and transitioning into my bottom piece. So this piece will have 3 because they're longer pieces of it. The other one I think will have 4 on it, I think it is. And I'm assuming that the next 2 prompts I'll be able to either incorporate into existing pieces, which I won't be stitching down the top pieces yet, or I'll be able to incorporate them into little embellishment sort of elements on the side, because I am planning to add more things on top of the fabrics. So again, just showing you the transition. So I've gone from here, we've got greens and pinks in very sort of muted tones. And then this one again is in muted tones at the top, but it's got the red of the wall. So I brought that in. We've still kept the greens because we've still got the greens in here. We've got the browns, so I've brought those in, and there are brown elements up here as well. And so we've just transitioned down here. I might even tuck that cheesecloth in so we've got a continuous line across there, I'm not sure. Or I might even move this piece down a smidge. So I'll just work all of that out as I start to put in some holding stitches. And then, yeah, we come down. So let me bring us down further. Oops. Ouch, pin stabbed me. That's why I hate pins. They're out to get me, those pins. A bit of thread there. And so then we come down through those muted colours, and then I used, you'll be so happy because I know people saw me get my big stashes of sheets and other things, doona covers from the op shops when I was up in Bright. And so I've used this massive, and I've got so much fabric now, I just tore the 2 sides of the quilt cover apart, and I've got this beautiful fabric, and I just used a side panel piece of that. So something like that. So if anyone loves this fabric, I've got plenty of that to share around. And then this one looks like a William Morris. I don't know if it is a William Morris fabric. I'll have to check. It would have come, I think, either from the Sewing Lair or from Melanie, purveyor of Reclaimed Textiles. Let me just pull this up a smidge more. I might just bring us back a smidge. And so we've got our piece with the hidden secret door coming down to our little robin with the key from the little vintage key from my grandpa's collection, and where I've sort of made a little leafy scene at the front. And if I do need an area for another prompt, this could be a possible place to put something, but I quite like that it's just, again, showcasing the fabric. It looks like a little puddle outside the door, and a sort of just gives a lovely sense of transitioning from the robin in the foreground back to where the door and the 3-dimensional vines are. So again, just transitioning the colours and bringing those red, sort of muted reds and browns and greens down into the piece down here. I've used a brown with a smaller fabric, and then I've got this beautiful little remnant of very old embroidered fabric. I think, again, this would have come from Melanie, purveyor of Reclaimed Textiles, or possibly from some of my overseas fabrics, not sure. And so, yeah, I've just included that over the top of that other piece. And I'll be doing more of those little snippets where I might not have a big format piece of fabric, but want to capture the fabric in there. And again, that's got that little bird element, which I used as a ribbon piece further up. So that is the bottom of the wall hanging. So you'll remember I said I'm going to go with Down the Garden Path of my mind's eye. And mind's eye, I was sort of toying around with what words to use for the titling of this. But I just thought, yeah, mind's eye is such a lovely way to describe it, because I looked up the definition. So the mind's eye is defined as the mental faculty of conceiving imaginary or recollected scenes. And so it refers to the part of your mind that allows you to visualize things and to see them in your imagination. So you might not know, and I didn't know this before I was looking this up, about 2 to 5% of the population can't actually conjure up images in their mind's eye, and they have a condition called aphantasia. So they just don't have that ability to produce mental imagery. And as a result, interestingly, they have less vivid and less detailed memories. Then there's people that have a condition called hyperphantasia, which is intensely strong visions and very vivid dreams as well, almost to the point where they're not even sure sometimes if their dream is a real or a imagined conjuring of imagery. And so that's about 2.6% of the population. I think 2.6, not 2 to 6. Anyway, we'll see. I wrote some notes down. And so the mind's eye acts as an emotional amplifier. So it strengthens your positive and your negative feelings about things. And so for me, I'm someone that does have very strong visual imagery. I remember where I see things. So if I see something on a page, I'll remember where it was on a page. I can't for the life of me remember phone numbers or numbers. So when I'm working with budgets at work, no, just can't remember the numbers. Like I can look at them, I could try and hold them in my head, just can't hold the numbers in my head. But I can tell you where on a page I saw something. I can tell you where, even in my boxes of fabric, I know where to go back and find the fabrics. So it's possible I might be somewhere near that sort of hyperphantasia. I'm also someone that can't watch scary or disturbing movies. So things like The Hunger Games, I could not watch that because I was just feeling sick when I started even watching that movie. So I know kids watch that movie, but I was just like, no, disturbing, can't do it. I know it's going to play in my mind. Can't watch violent movies. I have a very emotional reaction to them and they stay with me. So I figure having a beautiful dreamlike garden is going to be just the most lovely thing to have on my walls, and to capture some of those beautiful scenes that have come from my imagination, but also from my recollections as well, like the chateau piece, which will be on the other panel. But I just think that's going to be the perfect labelling for my piece, Down the Garden Path of my mind's eye. So I hope that gave you a bit of a taste of this piece. In terms of what my next steps will now be, is I'll start at the top and I'll just put in some hidden stitching or some long stitches at the back, and just popping up and doing little small stitches at the front to start to hold all the pieces down, all the way down the fabric. Now you can just do those sort of basting stitches to hold all the pieces in place, and then you can take your basting stitch out, or you can do the hidden stitch and then just leave it in the piece even when you're done, because the stitches won't really be apparent on the front. So I want to get that done so that I can take these clips off, but most of all so I can take out the pesky pins and not be stabbing myself as I start to think about how I want to stitch this all down. And then what embellishments I want to add over the top. So I've got some holidays coming up in a few weeks, and I wanted to take away some sewing with me, but not take away boxes upon boxes of fabrics and selections. So I thought getting my panels ready at home and with them just invisible stitched down before I go would be great, and then taking along some embellishments with me. And when I'm talking embellishments, I'm thinking things like these sorts of embroidered flowers, where I'll just be able to add them in, possibly where there's joins between the fabric. things like, and this wouldn't go on this one because it's got a white background, but little flowery pieces, little baskets. I've got lots of lovely bits of garden imagery that haven't made it into the piece. I've got beautiful laces as well, fibres. I'll no doubt add in some things like these gorgeous vintage Suffolk puffs that I got from Melanie, and then I've got my own Suffolk puffs that I've made as well. So they're and they're just so soft. I washed them again, so they're even softer. But I'll be able to pick out some of those that actually connect with the colours in each of the sections. I got a variety of them, so I should have enough different colours to go around. I'll also probably add in some of my buttons. I've got beautiful, this was from one of my previous hauls that you can see in another video. I've got a bountiful supply of gorgeous mother of pearl buttons. So I've started sharing around. I can add some beading as well. If I want to, I can do some painting with thread on my flowers, or even just some outline stitching. So really the possibility is endless about how much I might want to add stitching. I can do seed stitching where you sort of hold the pieces down. I can do cantha or sashiko or borrow sort of style stitching. So that lots and lots of possibilities for how I might then want to add to this piece. And I'm planning to take my 2 panels when I go on holidays. So I've got fun stitching to do, but not heaps and heaps of supplies with me. The main thing will be taking the panels, taking some needles, and taking some thread, plus any of the embellishments that I might want to add to the pieces. So hopefully that's given you an idea if you are either doing this project, the Roxy Journal of Stitchery, and have individual pieces. It could even apply to the previous projects we've done with Roxy Journal of Stitchery where we have individual pieces, or you might have some individual pieces you've been just working on yourself as part of slow stitch or sewing or embroidery projects, and thinking, oh, how do I bring them all together if I want to create a larger wall hanging, if I don't want to frame the individual pieces. So hopefully this gives you an idea and a way to really celebrate and honour and have the ability to look at and touch all your gorgeous hoardy fabrics on a daily basis. So I will just love having these right next to me in my craft room. So that's enough of me burbling away. You know, I just love spending time with you. I know many of you will be there stitching away, which just makes me so happy, or crafting away, or maybe going through your fabrics. It's just lovely to spend time virtually with you. Wouldn't it be lovely if we could all be around the same table together and nattering and stitching together? Thank you again to everyone who is subscribing and commenting and liking. I believe I'm approaching the 1,000, which is just amazing. Just blows my mind. But yeah, if you'd like to put in a subscribe, then you'll be notified as I continue to work on this piece. And I've got so many exciting projects to be working on as well. I'll have to see if I can sneak a couple of those other project materials into the car when we go away as well. Take care, everyone, and I will see you soon. Bye.